the Stinky Popcorn Boys.
We watch movies and eat popcorn. And you're stinky.
All right, hello. We are the Stinky Popcorn Boys, three boys talking about movies and how they made us feel. Welcome. I am Patrick Baskwell, a resistance leader with a secret backstory that will play in later in exactly the perfect way. Tell us who you are.
I am John Gilardi, a Star Wars apologist turned to the dark side.
And I am Christian Ames, and even though we already recorded this podcast and the audio is terrible, I am here to finish what we started. How'd you guys like that, huh?
That was good.
Did I
good.
sound like Kylo?
A filter would have sounded good otherwise.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go back and post and add a filter on there.
Ooh,
Give
do it.
yourself
Don't
like
even-
some wub.
So today, what are we talking about in terms of Star Wars? Oh, first of all, it is May 6th now.
Yep.
We just passed May the 4th. May
Time
the
is a
4th be
flex.
with you, boys.
May the 4th be with you as well, sir.
Yeah.
May the 4th be with you.
Yeah.
May the 4th
so
be with you.
today we're
So-
going to be talking... John, you want to tell us what the...
Yeah, we're going to do prequels versus sequels. For those who don't know, there's 9 Star Wars films. There's the original trilogy, the famous ones from the 70s and 80s. And then there were the prequels that came out to much negative fanfare initially, and they're kind of in weird spots. That'll be fun to talk about. And then the sequels, the newest ones, 7 through 9, which are super divisive. And there's a whole lot going on there. So
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that the original trilogies are great. Not perfect, but they're near perfect, and they're awesome.
I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason that we're still like talking about Star Wars. Fucking 33 years after the first one.
Exactly. So let's talk about the ones that people like to talk about. People like to shit on, or people. Everyone has opinions, particularly on the sequels and the prequels. So this will be a fun little discussion. And I mean, not disclaimer, but we're all 28, 29-year-olds. So we grew up
Boomer!
with the prequels is kind of the it's kind of the context. So obviously what we grew up with is a factor. I guess let's start with the original trilogy. And what's your first Star Wars memory? Obviously it's all going to be the original trilogy. So for me, we had the VHSs, like the box set VHS set before they all got tinkered with by George Lucas. And I just remember watching them. I don't think I watched them in order, and I didn't know what I was watching, but it was fun to look at. And the special effects, the stormtroopers are cool. Luke, I just liked looking at it. That's my first memory of Star Wars, and then being afraid of the Emperor, of Palpatine, I would say, are my earliest Star Wars memories. What about you guys?
I think my earliest Star Wars memory. Sorry, Christian, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all good. Part of being remote.
But I think that my earliest Star Wars memory, especially with the original trilogy, is like I feel like watching them. I remember watching them in like 1997 over like Christmas break, and like we got. I think the first way that I ever saw it was like when they were tinkered with and they added like the Jabba the Hutt in the first movie, but still, even then, it was just like, it was amazing. I think I was 6 or 7 at the time. I don't know if the timeline checks out, but I remember it being Christmas in North Carolina and watching through them all over like a Christmas, and like I think I watched Indiana Jones for the first time that same like Christmas break. So it was just like, here's a bunch of stuff. Like my dad was like, here's a bunch of stuff that I loved. Maybe like you love it.
That sounds like the best Christmas ever.
I remember going to the beach and like during that time, because my mom, like, I remember going to the beach and like walking around and being like, this is Tatooine. I'm on Tatooine, and grabbing like a stick and pretending to be Luke Skywalker.
Oh, dude. Okay, well that takes me back to my favorite memory. I had this like navy blue sweatpants, like a black turtleneck, and these like dark rain boots, and I would put those on because it was the closest to Luke's costume from Return of the Jedi.
Oh yeah.
And me and my dad would just play Star Wars, just bashing our lightsabers against each other, And my dad would just keep saying over and over again, "Luke, I am your father," which I know is not the correct line delivery, but it was still, that's probably my favorite memory associated with the original trilogy, just because I used to watch it with my dad.
My mom lost so many gloves because I would just steal one glove so that I would have
Jesus.
a glove on.
Dude,
Like,
that's
she
so
lost so
perfect.
many gloves. And like,
Dude, I
funny.
wish I could see little baby Patrick running around on the beach pretending you're on Tatooine. Oh,
I used to
It's
turn
so
my
cute.
room into like into a spaceship. So like, so that there'd be like the engine in the back part, and then there'd be like a little spaceship thing in the front. Imaginations are wild.
I know. I had all the figures, and like I had like the regular G.I. Joe size like minifig thingies, and these smaller little like toy soldiers. I would just get lost for days playing in that world.
Yeah.
But that's, I guess, kind of a good way to bring into it, because like there's definitely the childlike wonder aspect of Star Wars, and
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing that people grow out of, and they don't realize it, but they still remember it the way they did as a child. And I think that's a big thing, and a big reason why the prequels weren't looked on as fondly for people that were older.
But it's
There's
interesting.
a huge case of the member berries, and I mean that's probably the biggest, argued as the biggest reason why. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, honestly, like the dialogue is terrible, and it's trade negotiations are not exciting as a topic material. But the prequels, I think, got a bad rap. I think they're better than people gave them credit for, and I think a lot of it comes down to just the fact that the storytelling through the music and the cinematography is so solid. You could have it on mute and not watch Star Wars and get a really good idea of what's going on because of the storytelling of the emotions, evocated through the music or through the acting, because they're always faster and more intense, and because of the cinematography. It does those things real well. I don't know.
It's interesting for me to look back on the prequels as they're like kind of like being told like in after the Battle of Yavin, because they have like this like sheen that you see in kind of like flashbacks. Like there's that sheen throughout the entire, like I know, and it's like a glowy like light source thing because of they use green screens, but it's like there's a sheen throughout the entire prequels that makes it feel like kind of otherworldly. So it's like if you're like looking at it from that aspect of like somebody telling the story from the current time, which would be like after Battle of Yavin or something like that. And again, this isn't, but it's like then they become a little like it feels like more forgivable how like weird and stunted the dialogue is.
Yeah, going off, I mean, again, we were all pretty young when the prequels came out, so we have that inherent nostalgia value with the prequels. A lot of people will defend them to the like tooth and nail, like, oh, they're still good, like especially after the sequel trilogy. There's still a lot of bad stuff in the prequels, mainly like you were saying, John, the dialogue, but it was so cohesive. Like the entire trilogy felt cohesive. It felt like the same universe. It felt very unified. I think I'm stealing this from another YouTuber, but I like to say it felt like the samurai age of the Jedi, which is really cool. Like or medieval times in the Star Wars timeline, which was just a cool, like seeing the Jedi temple and stuff like that. Yeah. Also, I mean, Darth Maul is like just cool. So.
I mean, talking about being a kid, when you saw that double-sided lightsaber the first time in theaters and you didn't know that was a thing, it's like, oh my God, fuck yeah. This is what, like, I didn't even know that was possible. You know?
I'm stumbling here. The prequels are so full of moments, you know, like so full. And, like the first film, probably arguably the worst one, you know, has that fight, you know, the pod racing even. You know, you could argue the pod racing is just unnecessary fluff, but, you know, like, it's awesome, you know? It's such a cool sequence. And even the droid battle against the Gungans, that's a spectacle, and that was cool. That was the first time you saw a pitched battle in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you saw Attack of the I'm blanking. Empire Strikes Back. You see that, but with the the beauty and power of technology and special effects, you saw the full battle play out, and that was really cool. Even just seeing Anakin do these things, like be a great pilot and go out there and have R2, it was such a cool kind of dynamic, and it was neat to see, Darth Vader with R2D2 flying about, and that Luke does that.
Oh yeah, even in third
cool.
grade. I think I was in third grade. You were in second grade when it came out. Just like seeing that moment and thinking, what? Because everybody knows Anakin becomes Darth Vader. Even at that point, it's like, oh, dude, in the future, your son's gonna fly with him, and he's gonna blow up the Death Star, which is your base. Mom, did you know that, Mom?
Yeah,
My
I mean,
mom
it's
was
all
like,
super
yeah.
fan servicey, but it's great. And I mean, as a kid, similar to Jake Lloyd's age, that was perfect because I was watching that. I was like, that could be me,
Oh, of course. And at the end of the day, like Star Wars should to a degree, should be about fan service because it's a fictional universe set in a galaxy far, far away. It should make us happy and feel fun and just have those moments.
Yeah. I mean,
and then I think Attack of the Clone. I think people regard Attack of the Clones as the worst one, but I do think Phantom Menace is technically the worst one, because it doesn't add on anything to the story. It's almost a prequel that we never needed to the prequels, to episodes 2 and 3.
Yeah, I think we would have done well to start with Anakin's story, and then like kind of get thrust into the Jedi world. That would have been kind of cool. I just had that idea right now. Is like,
Yeah.
what if instead of being a part, holy shit, that's fucking cool stuff as fuck. Sorry. Like if we started with Anakin on Tatooine the same way that we started with Luke, and then like the same stuff happens.
Yeah, that would have been so good.
If we're with Anakin the whole time instead of like we see all this other stuff, because I think that's one of the things that for me the prequels is like there's so much, and it's like for me it's a lot of George Lucas being like, I have this cool idea, and he's just shoving stuff in there, just like shoving it in there like it's a sandwich that he like wants to have everything that he ever wanted on a sandwich in one sandwich, and then
He got the freedom,
yeah.
so let's see what he does with it.
Ooh, I just thought of a really good analogy from the sequels to the prequels. The prequels are like a big sandwich with a bunch of different meats. You got ham, you got capicola, salami, but then you've also got turkey and roast beef and all this other stuff. But you eat it, and it's one sandwich.
Pastrami.
Whereas the sequel trilogy is just 3 different sandwiches, completely different palates, and by the end, you're shitting your brains out.
Yeah.
You're also at Hardee's.
The third sandwich of the sequel trilogy has actually like sat for a long time. It's the one that like sat in the plastic container of the gas station, and you're like hungover and you need to go get something, and you're like, oh, I fucking love this sandwich the first time I had it. And then you have it for the second time or the third time, whatever the case may be, and you're like, fuck, this is terrible. You find a tooth in it for some reason.
Ugh.
But you're
Yeah, I
eating
mean-
it just to feel better because you're
Yeah.
hungover, and you just need it to be over. You just need the hangover to be over, so you're like, I'm going to eat this.
I think the
then
analogy
you
is
shit your
breaking
brains
apart.
out.
Now we're just yeah.
So, Attack of the Clones. Let's quick thoughts on that. I'd say let's go through all 6 of films, but like
Okay.
5 to 6 minutes on each, and then we come back and talk about the whole thing.
Yeah.
So Attack of the Clones, I liked a lot because I like military movies and stuff like that. So the fact that there's this huge war starting, and then it was like, I like the Jedi, the good guys, and the stormtroopers are good guys now. It's such a cool.
Yeah.
It was just so cool. I was like, yay, stormtroopers are good guys. I can feel good about it. And that was neat. And just seeing the Jedi in their prime and leading armies, and the Colosseum scene. I can't tell you how many times I started that movie at the Colosseum scene and finished the movie. I would watch that all the time.
Just that bit.
Yeah, I did.
Where
I did
all
the
the
same
Jedi
thing
light
with,
up their lightsabers.
Ugh.
Yeah, when they all pull them out, and yeah, Jango Fett even in there. I mean, that's awesome, and that's probably one of the better parts. I mean, it's such a good part of the movie. The rest of it's mostly a drag. especially the love stuff. But one of my favorite moments though is also when Anakin and Padme go out to the arena together with the Across the Universe playing, which is that song, and it's just so good. The love story sucks, but it's so good at that moment. And
Yeah.
John Williams, dude.
Yeah.
That I totally agree. John Williams makes that love. He sells it. He sells it.
Well, the song is, a lot of like orchestral stuff. With live these instruments, you can crescendo and swell stuff. But with that, it's like their love growing is so palpable. It just the music swells and crescendos up. It's so good.
Yeah, it's I
super.
I think I like that one. I like the Attack of the Clones because it like the detectiveness of it. Like I like the idea of Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi like going around being like, I'm a detective, and he talks to his greasy spoon guy. Like they even go to like a greasy spoon diner. Do one of you guys know his name? Was it Max?
It's like Raz or Rax.
Dex.
Yeah,
Dex.
Dex. Dex.
Obi-Wan, I haven't seen you since we met on Mozzarella.
Got a Mandalorian name drop from him too about the dart. Or no, Kaminoan.
yeah.
He's like, that's a Kaminoan dart. They're cloners.
Yeah.
Damn good ones too. So many good quotes.
Best line of the movie.
Yeah. It's like one of the few swears in Star Wars too. I remember watching that. I was like, whoa, he said damn.
Oh, it didn't even register that.
Can he
for
say
me.
that? Yeah.
But I mean,
or like when Han Solo on Hoth says, "Then I'll see you in hell." It took me out for a minute. Like,
that's like,
wait, is there?
I feel like that was
is there
Han
Christianity in this?
That was just Harrison Ford, just like, fuck it, I don't give a shit. Just,
Yeah.
I feel like that was him, not in the script.
and
I
then
can
like
see
they
that.
kept trying to be like, hey Han, hey, or what's his real name? Hey Harrison, can you just say, well then, like I'll see you. Like they're trying to change the line. He's like, no. And he's like, yeah. I'll do it. I'll change it. This take, I'll change it. And each time he just says the same line, and they're like, all right, well this time, could you please? And he's like, no, okay, yeah, I got it this time. I understand what we're going for. And then each time it's just like, well, I'll see you in hell. And they're like, all right, fuck it, we got to move on.
Yep, that's
The
you're probably
original
right.
line, but before he goes into the carbonite, the original line was, "I love you." Jesus Christ, I fucking know already.
Yep.
I fucking get it.
I think so. Darth Maul was super dope bad guy, and that they killed him off was kind of a shame. And I think one of the biggest weak parts of the prequels is that it doesn't have a consistent villain throughout. Which you think they learned their lesson, but we'll get on that later. So they don't have
Spoiler
a
alert!
consistent villain throughout. But I like Dooku. Dooku is a really intriguing character, and they kill him right at the beginning of Return of the or Revenge of the Sith. Which I guess we can jump into that, which is I think undisputed the best of the prequels.
Well, it's like the payoff. That's like the climax. I mean, it's literally the climax of the three, but it's like, all right, we're watching these. I think that's one of the things that holds back the first two movies, because everyone's watching the first two movies being like, oh God, I can't wait to get to the part where he becomes Darth Vader. Oh boy. And then it's like, by the time like we get to the third movie, everyone's just like, yeah, this is the moment. So it's like, it's just an incredibly big payoff. And I mean, it's got the same problems that the other two movies have. It's like, like the love stuff is like poorly handled, written by a 5-year-old, and then like directed like a 5-year-old, where it's like, just look like you're in love with her and say it like you're in love with her, okay? And I mean, it's just.
I think I agree with you to a degree, but I think Hayden Christensen definitely found. I mean, he found more of his footing in Revenge of the Sith than he had in Attack of the Clones. But that's also because it was a few years later, and I don't know.
Yeah, no,
I think everybody would agree with me. His performance as Anakin in Revenge was way better.
way better. Yeah.
Way better.
Yeah.
I mean, the beauty of it, like you're talking about the payoff, is just like with that music playing at the end of Mustafar, and just like the grueling battle, and people's like, one of the complaints is that it goes on too long, but I think I like that it goes on long. It just lets you contemplate and reflect on how do we get here. It's so long that you're questioning it over and over, and you're retracing the steps, and it's I don't know if that was on purpose,
Dude.
but that's how I consume it, and it's so good. It just there's so much
And-
gravity to it. I mean, the music helps a lot, but like the visuals and
Yeah,
the
that's what I
stakes
was-
and they're fighting over lava, which to me is like we're putting it all out here. This is it. This is everything that we have. We're going balls to the wall, and that's what I mean by like the prequels are so good at storytelling, just visually and what you see. I don't know. That's how I feel.
It's just
John Williams was on his A game throughout the prequels, throughout the prequel trilogy, because like the best moment in Phantom Menace is when Darth Maul comes out and Duel of the Fates plays, and it's just like super black and white, bad guy versus good guy. But Battle of the Heroes, which is the theme that plays during Anakin and Obi-Wan's battle, it's not like a badass fight theme. It's like kind of tragic. It's like you don't want this to be happening because you don't really want either one to kill the other, because they're both like Obi-Wan arguably has flawed morals. Same obviously with Anakin. He just killed a bunch of younglings. How could he do that? But John Williams tells it with the music. He's so
it's so good.
fucking love John Williams.
so good.
And then the people always make fun of the high ground comment, but I think the best there's two better moments from that when Anakin yells liar. It's so funny because he's supposed to be channeling all the hate and the Sith energy when he yells liar. Oh man. And then also
He still sounds like a boy.
yeah, and then the other one where they're talking like in the middle of the fight, they're like, but from my point of view, the Jedi are wrong. It's just like it's such a stupid
Yeah.
conversation to be having at that time. Well, from my point of view, it's just oh my god.
I think I mean, listen, there's flaws, and I have thoughts on it, like, and it ties into how I feel about the other ROTS, Rise of Skywalker, or ROS, excuse me, I'm stupid. But I mean,
Rise of the
I feel like
Skywalker.
Rise of the Skywalker, but I just feel like they could have doubled down on it and had more dialogue and then more fighting, because like I feel like Anakin should be like trying to convince Obi-Wan that he's right,
Yeah. Well,
and like
when
being
you-
like, hey, be on my side, because I don't know.
well, the fight happens
there's-
pretty quick because he sees Padme,
Yeah.
and then he sees Obi-Wan, and he's like, "You're betraying me," and he chokes her, and then they fight. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree
mean,
with
and
that.
I think,
Dude,
it's in
the
something,
moment-
because I've just been watching the movie. Sorry, Christian. I was
Oh,
just
it's all
watching it again because I watched the Rise of the Skywalker as it came out on May the 4th. So I watched that, and then we'll get to that later. But so then I watched Revenge of the Sith again, and I like just getting that, and it's like he goes from being like, no, the Emperor needs to stay alive. He needs to stay in trial, like real fast, to being like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna kill a bunch of kids now. And I think that it would have been a cool moment to be, and again, it's easier to be revisionist history, but I think that one of the things that they lacked is they like hit the beats of everything in the prequel trilogy. Like they hit all the beats and didn't really explore the humanity of the characters. They were like, all right, well, this happens, and then this happens. Anakin turns to the dark side, and now he's on the dark side. There's no like transition
yeah.
to being a bad guy.
And I normally, I mean, I've said it before, but tell your story within the story, within the film itself. Don't like rely on comic books and novels and stuff. But the Clone Wars TV show, it's canon and it's visual. It's a TV show. It changes the prequels so much. It's so good, and it just finished up. And I mean, I had chills throughout the ending because it coincides with the ending of Revenge of the Sith, and it's so fucking good. It's like hauntingly good. And man, I don't know if you guys have watched it, but I pity that you haven't watched it and you haven't experienced that. But I also envy you that you still have that ahead of you to watch. It's so good.
I just can't I've tried, but I can't really get into the animated style. I just can't. Call me a non-Star Wars fan for saying that, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's
I
definitely a
haven't
hump
been
to
able
get over, but it's really good in just later on when it starts to find its footing around season 3 or 4, And
Hey,
the
Christian,
Ahsoka plot,
here I am.
such a cool character. I don't know. Even at least watch the last 4 episodes of the new season, because
I've
those
seen
are,
like a lot of moments, like
don't you
the,
have,
like
like,
the
a
battle
watch order?
between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan on Tatooine, or
That's Rebels.
That's from Rebels.
But watch the last 4 episodes of season 7 then, because it's it's so good. I don't know.
Sponsored by
Tangent
Disney.
over.
But yeah, I do still agree that of the 3 of them, the prequels, the Revenge of the Sith is probably the best.
Dude, I think going back to something I was gonna say, one of my favorite moments in retrospect from Revenge of the Sith was how, despite his whiny demeanor, when Anakin chokes Padme, it's the first time we see him use Force choke. So I like to imagine that every time he uses that ability as Darth Vader, he's thinking of Padme, and he's so full of rage and just hatred with himself, and that's what keeps him on the dark side. It's just like,
Man.
so beautiful.
I had
Also,
that idea. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Go off that.
No, because
You
it's
got an
just
idea.
like I'm just thinking about again how cool it would have been to have essentially stuck with Anakin and Obi-Wan from the beginning of the prequel. Like if
Oh yeah.
that would have been so like instead of like because you could still be on the periphery and you could still have all these trade negotiations, but if you like stuck with them, that would be so fun.
Yeah.
To just have like to see their dynamic and have them grow up as like brothers or whatever, and then
Yeah, I mean the time between episode 1 and 2 where they're like, I want to. That's interesting. I want to know more about the training and the way Obi-Wan tames Anakin down from being a wild boy.
yeah.
And that's so compelling. That should have been episode 1. I mean,
Yeah.
essentially, to bring it up again, the Clone Wars has that where Anakin gets Ahsoka as a Padawan, and so we see that initial kind of training and acquainting each other and kind of and breaking her down so she's not such a loose cannon. But then Anakin's also a loose cannon, so she's like, "But you're doing this." So it's such an interesting dynamic, and I think that could be projected on with Obi-Wan and Anakin, because Obi-Wan is pretty by the book, but he also has some wobbly morals, and I mean he has a love interest. Like he's not the perfect Jedi, so it'd be so interesting to see that with Anakin looking up to Obi-Wan and seeing his flaws in the Jedi Order, and how that pushes him forward and away from the Jedi Order, or makes him frustrated with the hypocrisy of the Jedi Order. Like so much cool stuff there, and it does
Like
get explored in the show. But I think
I know, but
we should have
put
seen
it in the movie.
no, I'm arguing for the movie, but I'm wishing we saw it in an episode 1 that started with Anakin with Obi-Wan, because that would have done so much.
Ugh.
But
Fuck.
but one of the things that made me realize how bad the first one was when the simple question was posed: who's the main character of Phantom Menace? And you can't
Qui-Gon
really
Jinn.
definitively say. Not that movie.
Misa him.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a me.
None of us mentioned Jar Jar. That's interesting.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I mean, because that's like beating a dead
Yeah.
horse. Hot take. I love Jar Jar. He's my favorite character.
I liked him
He
when
was
I was
the
a
Sith
kid.
Lord, puppeting the whole thing the whole time. Wow.
I like Jar
That's
Jar
my
as a
theory.
kid because he looked like a dinosaur lizard man, and I thought he was funny, and he was approachable and relaxed and comedic relief. So I liked him as a kid. Obviously grew out of that.
Oh, yeah,
but
same with-
he did his job.
I feel like the
same with
prequels are
Watto.
for kids.
Same with Watto. Just like,
don't work on me, only money.
I'm very anti-Semitic, but it's okay because I make a funny voice
the-
and I have a big nose.
Before we move on to the
I am not for adults. This is for kids. They think this is funny.
before we move on to the sequels, do you want to point out just the racist stereotype characters all over the Phantom Menace, and then obviously it follows through
Well,
because they establish these things. But you have the Gungans, you have the,
have
I think they're called
The Trade Federation.
yeah, the Numerians or something like that, whatever that race is.
which are
And then
blatantly
Watto.
like
Geonosians.
Chinese.
Yeah,
The
they're
Geonosians,
very Asian.
even with talking in cliques and stuff.
Oh yeah, it's just
this-
it's all over the place.
Are there
Yeah.
any other ones? Because we all know the Gungans, the Trade Federation, and
Watto.
Watto, but are there any others?
I mean, the Genosians are like African tribes. They have like kind of like dreads. They talk like in cliques and stuff like that. They go,
Jesus.
Oh, true,
And so
true.
it's like,
Oh,
you know-
also the Hutts. That's just fat shaming, which is very wrong. So, what else is there?
Well, I mean, you could say I mean,
I think
there's
those are
something
the
to
main
be
big
said.
ones. I'm sure there's stuff scattered in there, obviously, but nothing's
Yeah.
coming to mind. Well,
I mean, there's something to be said for it's like, are those intentional racist stereotypes, or is George Lucas just like unconsciously racist?
I think he's
It's
trying to draw from real life and make it so it's familiar, but it just comes across as racist not racist, but as insensitive.
Like,
So
yeah, like this is gonna sound bad. Call me racist, but like all those stereotypes landed on me as a kid. Like I was like, oh, this guy loves money. Oh, these guys are all about their business. Oh, this guy. Well, I don't know how to classify the Gungan. He lives underwater.
Well, and again, it kind of speaks to the problem with the singularity of the prequels, where it's like everyone has like cartoon goals, where the Jedi must keep peace and order in the galaxy. The Senate wants to do something else. The Gungans, they want to live free. And it's like everybody has a singular like goal, and that's kind of what drives the whole universe. Is like everybody has one thing that they want, rather than it being a little bit more nuanced, you could say.
thing.
Um,
Well,
Yeah.
Fair point.
shall we push on to
Yes, of course. I'll take my monocle off now.
TFA?
Dude, I have a segue. I have a
Here.
segue.
Oh, hit us
So
with it.
at the end of Revenge of the Sith, I was just thinking about this. Literally just thought of this. When Obi-Wan goes to get Anakin's lightsaber, he doesn't force grab it, which he could have done. He bends over and picks up Anakin's lightsaber and walks away, which made me think of in The Force Awakens when Kylo can't grab the lightsaber, but Rey can. Does that mean that Anakin's will is tied to his lightsaber? I don't know. That could be a really stupid point, but I just thought of that. So that could bring us to The Force Awakens.
Perfect
The,
segue, Christian. Thank you so
the
much.
film we never thought was coming. George
You're
Lucas
welcome.
said, "We're done. No more Star Wars movies." And then Disney bought Lucasfilm, and of course they're gonna make some movies, make some money, make their money back. And that's The Force Awakens. It came out in 2015, I believe. And
Oh,
I
man.
think it's not super interesting film, so I'd say we save time for the other ones since they're more interesting to talk about. But it's a safe film. It was fun. Star Wars is back, baby. It played it safe. It was a good ride. I mean, that pretty much sums it up for me. I don't know if you guys have it.
I fucking loved it, dude. I fucking loved it. It was such a good way to bring new Star Wars fans in, like new kids who had never seen Star Wars before or just weren't familiar with it, in a new high budget Disney fashion, to bring back old fans. Like, hey, we're gonna warm up your bum before we stick anything in it. We're gonna warm you up. They're giving you the reach around beforehand. Like, that was, and I fucking loved it, dude. It was. I will stand by Force Awakens. Love that movie. So, like you just said it, John. It was fun. It was a fun ride. Loved it.
It is a fun ride, and the thing was that was like really exciting is that it introduced new characters that had new point of views. Even if there are like kind of rehashed molds of the old ones, they like modified them enough that it's like, okay, yeah, cool. I want to see where this goes.
Yeah.
And you introduce someone like Rey, who's outside of the Jedi, who's outside of the entire world of the thing, and then you plug her into it. You have the beginnings of your very own hero's tale, and it's like, okay, cool. Let's see where this goes. And so it was a lot of fun. Force Awakens, a lot of fun. It is what it is. It's a warmed up version of The New Hope with new stuff.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
And then we come to The Last Jedi, where things really start to turn for the controversial.
Divisive.
Yeah, so I mean,
The divisive Last
yeah,
Jedi.
you have two people. You have two sides. You have people who loved it, or you people who hate it. In terms of Star Wars fans, and I'm personally in the camp that loved it. I thought it was a great film, first and foremost, and I really liked the things it did. I liked the moves it made, like the expectations it subverted, moved towards cool themes, set up cool stakes. And I just thought it was well done. I don't know.
I agree. I really liked. I mean, I think too. You begin to see the cracks in the Disney sequel trilogy here, and it's like, there. I love all of the stuff with Rey, Luke, and Kylo Ren. I like some of the stuff with like Leia and Holdo and Poe and Finn. And I even like some of the themes that are introduced, like with like, oh, the Resistance buys weapons from this bad arms dealer, and the Empire does. So who is bad? And it kind of like sets up like a cool idea to be explored that isn't of like with the thing of like the Last Jedi of like, is the Sith and the Jedi the only way to go, or can we just get rid of them? Which is something that I wish, they had played with more, that Rian Johnson set up, was like, hey, who is good and bad? We're fighting this fight for what?
Well, I feel like a big difference is Rian Johnson set up themes and cool scenarios and just what you're talking about, where JJ at the end of Force Awakens set up toy pieces. He had a toy chest and he put the toys in place. And
his mystery box.
Yeah, exactly. And that was cool. And he did that well. And then Rian Johnson actually took it and played with the toys, and he set up ideas, he set up themes, he set up compelling situations. He didn't just play with the toys. He didn't give you what you wanted. Essentially, he didn't go to the fucking Reddit boards and found out what people wanted and basically make fan fiction. This is frustration seeping into the Rise of Skywalker, if you can't tell.
Yeah, I was about to say that sounds like exactly what JJ did with Rise, but
so I mean,
I think my favorite thing about The Last Jedi, or should we call it The Last Edgelord, because nobody's ever gonna subvert expectations ever again, was Luke's storyline, was Luke's story arc throughout it, because Luke was my favorite character as a kid. Growing up as a middle-class, privileged white kid, I didn't have a whole lot of characters to relate to in cinema. It was really tough.
Jesus.
Both my parents remained married throughout the course of my entire high school and college education. They were great. They raised me well. It was really tough. Really tough time.
Dude, that sucks.
So I related to Luke the most, which I know is kind of weird to say, but when Yoda tells Luke, in Empire, a Jedi uses his powers for defense, never for attack. That was to me, that was the central point of The Last Jedi. Luke doesn't even touch his lightsaber to Kylo. That sounded kind of weird, but he doesn't attack Kylo. He just uses it as a big defense, a way to let the Resistance evacuate. It's like, it's perfect. It was
so
perfect.
Good. And
I will.
They shit on Luke's. The Rise of Skywalker did more to shit on a previous movie than The Last Jedi did to shit on The Force Awakens, if that makes sense.
Amen.
Amen.
Fact,
like, hope is such a big thing in Star Wars, especially from the Rebel storyline, which the sequels take and run with from the original trilogy. I mean, the first movie is called A New Hope. And then even at the end of Rogue One, when we say Leia, she just says, it's hope. And hope is such a big thing. And The Last Jedi ends with the rebellion, the resistance, down to like 20 people in the Millennium Falcon. And it's like, shit.
And nobody showed up.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, shit. This is when they need the hope the most. This is when they need to rally. This is so cool. They're so, like, they're at their bottom now. And I can't wait to see what they do to overcome the Empire, to overcome the I'm blanking on what it's called. Oh, the first order. Like, this is
the final order.
Yeah, it's so compelling. I was so interested into it. And then the Rise of Skywalker, it's like, yeah, we got a small fleet back again. You know that one ship from the opening scene of A New Hope that flies over? That's in our fleet now. It's pretty cool. It was in a book. If you read one of the books, you would have known. Like, it's just like that's it. Like, it's so frustrating.
I think this is a good time. We're gonna go ahead and shift gears into that sweet piece of a gas station sandwich, 3-day-old gas station sandwich that is the Rise of Skywalker.
I do want to do one thing.
Man,
I want to see that quote on the DVD. A 3-day-old gas station
I do
sandwich.
want to rewind because one of the biggest things is that people did not like what happened with Luke. Like, ooh, Luke wouldn't have done that. Luke wouldn't have blah, blah, blah. That's not Luke. And I know, Christian, you can address this pretty well.
Yeah, I will. I'll fight those people to my grave, and I respect those people's opinion because a lot of people wanted to see Luke as this wise, all-knowing Jedi, which would have been cool to see him like Yoda. I still would have loved that, but I honestly loved it even more that he was broken and defeated and so afraid of becoming his father or seeing somebody, one of his relatives especially, becoming his father. It broke him, and that was so humanizing. And that's what I loved about it, because you don't always get to be the hero. You don't always get to be the big, awesome, all-knowing, wise guy. Like, sometimes you just fucking move to an island and throw your X-Wing in the water and drink titty milk from a big fat alien. That happens. I
think that's the core of Luke is he's a relatable human character. And if he was a fucking warrior level 20 wizard, just able to go ham and have fire beams coming out of his fucking eyes, like, I don't know what people wanted. That would not have been interesting. You want something compelling.
Dude,
something interesting.
that would have made some people happy.
Yeah, it would have.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not as fun. And I think that the arc that they gave Luke is much more satisfying and much more realistic. Because it just, I mean, speaking just what you said, Christian, where it's like, that's sometimes it doesn't work out that way, and he was afraid of himself, and fear is, I don't know. I think it's beautiful.
Also,
the way he goes
speaking of beautiful, when he sees the binary sunset, I fucking cried, dude. And I
wasn't ready.
Bless you, John, because when John went to see this with me, it was his second time seeing it. It was my first time. And we went to dinner beforehand because me and John go on dates all the time. Yes, we kissed. And I was like, I told John, like, one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars is just the binary sunset in A New Hope. Just because it's like he's got these two destinies. It's like, oh, what am I going to do with my life? And when he sees that binary sunset, when he goes out, like,
when you said that at that dinner, I was like, play cool. You can't ruin this
Dude,
moment.
and you did.
It means that much to him. Definitely can't ruin that moment.
You played it so cool, which is why I kissed you after dinner.
Indeed.
After dinner?
Yeah, only after. You get
only
the
after
crumbs.
dinner? What about after the movie? Or yeah, that's why John's got that beard.
The
Well,
flavor
after
saver.
the movie, we didn't kiss after the movie because we were both crying so much. We didn't want to mess up each other's makeup.
Yeah, I get
But yeah, okay. So sorry, I started to backtrack. That's probably like one of the most big big detraction people give towards The Last Jedi. So I feel like I need to be addressed.
Oh no, I
But
appreciate it.
let's open the can of worms.
But now's the time. Let's go. Let's dive into that gas station.
The
sandwich.
gas station, yeah.
I'll just start off by saying
Palpatine somehow Palpatine's returned.
God.
Boom. Let's start there.
Well, him coming back is sets off the whole chain of events of what's shitty in this film. The fact that Rey's a Palpatine, and like that Rey's dad isn't even. It's Palpatine. It's a clone of Palpatine. It's not even a son.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they established
They did, but they didn't explain that in the movie.
It's again in one of their millions of comics and side books. But I mean, there's so many things in The Rise of Skywalker that aren't explained well, but are explained well if you read their books or if you read the comics. And it's so bad. It's so dumb. The fact that
which is like, for someone like me who can't read, like, how am I supposed to enjoy Star Wars? I can't read these books. I don't know how. How does book work?
Well,
I will say, one thing I liked about, if we're going from the beginning, I really liked the intro with Kylo fucking dudes up, just going full dark side, and his introduction to Exegol. I thought Exegol was so fucking cool, especially in the theater. Exegol looks, that fortress, like Palpatine's fortress. I had such a boner at the beginning of this movie. So if we're going chronologically, I was fully torqued at the beginning.
I want to go ahead and say what my it's kind of like my overarching thing, and then we can go minute by minute. We could go chronologically.
Oh, no, we don't. No, give us your overarching boner. Or lack thereof.
Well, my overarching lack of boner, as someone who has done improv and studies improv, it's like The Last Jedi set up all these things, and J.J. Abrams was not a good scene partner, was not a good storytelling partner, because he looked at all the things that The Last Jedi set up, and even if they were like, they took all the ideas that he gave them in The Force Awakens. Rian Johnson took all the ideas that he had. Like, he didn't throw anything away. He just put his own stuff on it. He said, yes, and this is what I'll do with them. And J.J. Abrams was like, well, you didn't play with my toys the right way. To go back to like the toy box thing. He's like, you didn't play with my toys the right way. This is how it's supposed to be. And he's like, I'm just going to do the story that I had planned regardless of what you said. Like, regardless of what you set up for me, Mr. Ryan, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. And that's like kind of what feels like the whole thing with Rise of the Skywalker.
And whether or not, whoever's listening to this right now, whether or not you liked Rise of Skywalker, you cannot deny that is exactly what happened with Rise. And I love that analogy so much, dude.
I think a lot of it this doesn't change that, but it also adds to it is that The Last Jedi was too divisive for the big studio bigwigs. And coming off of Han Solo movie not being exactly, I mean, it was a bust. They wanted to play it super safe. They wanted to dive into the Reddit fan theories, like, and make sure the majority of people are happy. So it's a double. I think it's a combination of that studio pressure, and then JJ just going back to what he had planned originally in 2013.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of it is J.J. Abrams' fault. I don't know if that's, there's been a lot that's been said on the internet that you can go find about J.J. Abrams as a storyteller with his mystery boxes and whatnot. But it's like, it does feel like it comes down to that Reddit wrote this movie or the internet wrote this movie, because it's like, she's not allowed to have all this power. And then it's like they have the beginning scene that shows her having all the power, where it's like, well, we gotta validate why she's so good, because I remember people coming out of The Force Awakens being like, she doesn't even know how to use the power, and it's not cool. She didn't even train, and it's like, come on, guys, like, why can't it just felt like there was a lot of like validating and then like backtracking, cutting Rose Tico out of the movie, essentially. It's just,
which I gotta say, hot take, I didn't really like Rose in the Last Jedi. I don't condone the racist assholes who fucking raided her Twitter after Last Jedi. Those guys are assholes. I just personally didn't really think she was that.
I really liked
to the plot.
I liked her because she
just being an edgelord.
I liked her because she embodied, and it was the epitome of just the little guy, the human element, like the person that's being affected by this tragedy. She was a human character, and not by the race or the species, but like in terms of just humanity as a something we all relate to. She was so much of that. She was regular. Like one of the first times we see someone cry in Star Wars, or think of all the times you see people cry in Star Wars. I don't know, but the way her intro, and she's just there sad and because her sister died, it's so compelling, and she just wants to do good. To me, she was a representation of the resistance of rebellion and of hope and defiance, and so I really like that.
I mean, she definitely is like like you said, the representation of why this bigger fight is happening, and like even them going to that gambling planet, like it's like this is not how the universe lives. This is how, like, you see Stable Boy, she is Stable Boy. And she's the reason that they fight. We don't ever get to see, except for the one time in Return of the Jedi when the guy who has the Rancor get smashed, and he's like, "Oh, my Rancor, my baby Rancor didn't kill."
Oh,
and it's like,
yeah.
I think that's the other time that we see someone be sad about something that's not connected to our larger story. And I think that she was really interesting for that. And I think that it's a disservice how they relegated her to the sidelines.
I will say the backtracking with putting her on the sidelines in Rise was definitely like, oh, come on. That's the shitty type of fan service that you don't want. But I will say, I think that Finn was the personification of hope and the resistance, and that's why I say I don't think we needed Rose. I would just rather focus on Finn.
I get that.
Yeah, he was
Booyah.
but he was postured as a celebrity
I get that.
pretty quickly.
I think in the first movie he was.
Yeah, in the first movie,
I
mean, Finn's the best in the first movie. Finn's storyline
Yeah.
is shit in 2 and 3.
Yeah, which
I mean, I
was
think that's
just sad overall.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves is they did it. They did all those good performances dirty. Like even Poe. I didn't really like Poe in the second movie, but I thought that it was interesting. But it's I just feel like they did all these new cool characters dirty. Especially by the time we get to the third movie, taking out all the personality and fun moments. I remember from the Force Awakens where it's Finn has so much verve and excitement for the world. And then we just get all of that taken away. And it just sucks.
Dude, I almost forgot about that because in the beginning of Rise, he's all grumpy and wow. I was just light speed skipping. What'd you do to BB-8?
What? Did you guys there?
Are you guys? What just happened?
So we are recording this remote.
I was doing that was my Finn impression.
That was
okay.
Or no, oh shit. I was thinking Poe.
Yeah. Well, I think Poe.
They both sound the same. It's crazy.
Poe's a weird character for me because he was supposed to be, I guess, the original three, not the original three, but the core three characters that we love and follow. And in the first movie, he comes across just as a side character. But I think in terms of the three, between Rey, Poe, and Finn, I think Poe is the best in The Rise of Skywalker. But I think
Are you speaking in terms of acting or character?
Story, character, acting.
Okay.
But obviously, I think
agree
the
with
best, the shining moment in a moment, but is Kylo Ren. It's good. It's compelling. As far as what Rian Johnson built, it's still there. So that there's some continuity there.
Except for his fucking helmet that JJ had to put back on him.
Yeah.
With that stupid monkey welder guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which was just another little creature to sell some toys of.
Yeah. Yes. Or to be oh, look how this interesting universe that we have. The thing that I'll say about the Rise of the Skywalker is there's no even the lightsaber duel between Kylo Ren and Rey on the water in the water planet or whatever, or just fighting. It's there's no stakes with it because it's we know that they don't want to kill each other.
It's why are they fighting right now?
I don't know.
Besides that they're both here. I mean, Rey, I guess, is angry. If anything, it's a conduit for Rey to do something out of character or something in character with her Palpatine, or to foreshadow that or something.
Dude, that's what I wanted. I wanted so much more in this movie for them to explore Rey's dark side more. And I don't want to call Rey a Mary Sue, but she kind of is. But pump the brakes. I think Luke, you could argue Luke was a Mary Sue in the original trilogy too. You could argue that. I would have, in retrospect, it would have been cool for them to explore more of Luke's dark side.
I would counter
They kind
that
of teased
with
it.
Rey never gets utterly defeated and dismembered as Luke does.
Yeah.
That's true. That is also true. That is very true. But yeah, good point. But Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was seeing Rey not necessarily struggle with the dark side, but go through something, whether it's losing a hand or maybe we mix it up this time and have her lose a foot or a butt cheek.
There was a serious
That'd be
lack
cool.
of people's hands getting cut off in this.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a
Well,
joke, but also like, I mean, it's a Star Wars motif. Like, what are you guys doing here? Like, there's a serious lack
Yeah.
of hands and wrists and arms getting cut off. I never thought about
legs.
that, but yeah.
Or a
or
circumcision.
damage.
What?
Yeah, Kylo, that would be like, she's like, I'm going to circumcise you. And that's how Kylo Ren lost the tip of his penis.
Oh, fun fact.
Fun fact.
But
No, not even a circumcision. The entire tip of his penis.
Just the entire, yeah. Well, she's not a doctor. She doesn't know.
Yeah.
to me, the
Can't blame her.
scene that epitomizes this film sucking is the scene where Chewbacca gets taken prisoner. You have the gang up on a spaceship doing something. You have Rey out in the middle of a field, and then Finn or Poe is like, Chewbacca, go get her. He walks down, and then we see that there's First Order ship parked right behind them. It's like so comedic, and they kidnap Chewie, and they don't do anything about anyone
they don't
else.
hear it.
And then Chewie has an off-screen death that isn't a death. Like, it's just like, it's such a mess. And it's like, also the Knights of Ren are shown, and they're kind of like all like edgelords in like black lacrosse gear on top of this little rock. It's so dumb.
It's
so dumb.
It's just the best scenes are the scenes with Rey and Kylo Ren. Like, those are the ones that feel like they have the most emotional stakes. Everything else feels like it's plot points to get to something, to get to nothing.
Yeah. I mean,
because it's like there's no final battle. Like, it's all lightning, and that's not exciting. Like, again, it's just like the worst rehashing of Return of the Jedi with her looking up and seeing her friends, and it's like, again, you already did this, JJ. You rewarmed A New Hope for us, and we ate it, and it was good because it was leftovers for the first time. But now you're giving us leftovers for the second time, and they have sat for far too long, and the food wasn't even good that first time. It was good. But I'm just still mad.
I'm standing up and clapping for that
Han
description.
Solo.
Thank you. A lot of food stuff I'm doing today.
The memory of Han Solo talking to Kylo Ren was really good. I do want to give credit to that. Kylo Ren,
Dude,
running and gunning.
I also credit that. I credit that.
Oh, for sure.
It's so good, and he's gonna say, "Dad," or I forget how he says it, but he says something like he's gonna say, "I love you," or "I'm sorry,"
just says-
and Han
and
says,
that
"I know,"
was-
and it's like that's good callback. That's good fan service
Dude,
right there.
Yeah.
Also, Adam Driver's delivery when he just goes, "Dad," and his voice breaks and his face is quivering and Han Solo, like, call the line cheesy, but if you didn't have an ounce of joy in your heart from that delivery, then sorry, dude, you don't have a fucking soul. And you
That
don't
fucking
love Star
scene-
Wars. And you're probably 50 and a boomer and you don't
Idiot.
give a shit about anything anymore.
Or you're
and you
10
hate your wife.
and you don't understand anything, and you ate chicken nuggets for dinner.
Yeah.
It's all food.
I mean, that
You're very
scene-
food motivated, it seems.
I am very food motivated today. I'm leaning into it.
I guess we're going long. So
Patrick's hungry.
Let's do two things each that we'll answer. So first we'll go around. What do you like better, sequels or prequels? And then the next question is, what would you do to fix the Rise of Skywalker? Let's start off with what would you do to fix the Rise of Skywalker? I'll go last.
Christian, you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Ooh, let me think. Yikes. I do to fix it.
I'll go. You guys can think. I'll go. I've got kind of a thing.
Okay.
So, Palpatine is back, or like it's the same thing. Kylo Ren is still fucking around trying to find, but he's still obsessed with Vader. He's still trying to figure out Vader. He thinks that Rey is not the answer or something like that. He's still on this quest to find Vader's castle. We've got to complete that arc. And then maybe he goes to Exegol, or maybe we go and see Vader's castle and it's cool as shit. And we're like, wow, Vader's castle, we get to see this. And again, it's about the Skywalkers, not about the Palpatines. And maybe Palpatine is there, but he's like a shell of his former self. Like he's like he's like Worm Tongue who's like eating rats and like lurking in the shadows or some shit like that. And so like we get like he's still a part of it, and so like I guess if you want to keep him there, and maybe he can still be like manipulative, and he's trying to play with Kylo and like manipulate him to do it, or maybe Kylo just kills him immediately. But either way, there's this fucking cute. I just want to make it smaller. Like if you just make it about taking Kylo deeper, like having them both explore the idea about that this setup in The Last Jedi about like what are we fighting for? Are the Jedi right? Are the Sith right? Like what's going on? And then have it be more about the people coming together. And then have like a really big, great lightsaber battle where, you know, Kylo. I don't know what happens at the end because this is just bullshit. But
I like where you're going.
But it needs to be about the end of the Skywalkers. Like it needs to. There just needs to be smaller. Like I think that in order to get to have it be more of a fun story, like you've gone big, and then like the Resistance is down to its last 20 troops or whatever, and it just needs to be about Kylo coming to terms with that he will never that Vader was wrong, like that there is no balance, or that the balance is getting rid of the Jedi or something. I don't know. Which was
explored in The Last Jedi when Luke was like, yeah, the Jedi are wrong. They're extinct for a reason. So it's there. It was being built.
Yeah. It was being built, but they left it. So that's like my very, very all over the place pitch. But it's like, again, my main problem is like, there's all these Sith followers who don't do shit. There's this giant fleet of ships that like shows up. It feels, again, in a world of like Force and midichlorians and, laser swords, it feels too unrealistic that there's 18 million new Star Destroyers with weapon-killing powers. It's like, again, we've already seen that. Yeah. Where it's like, fucking make it about, like, the choice. Make it about, like, blurring the lines between the old ways where it was about good versus evil, and like again where everyone has like a point to point in the prequels, but make it about the choice and the blurring of the lines.
Yeah. I mean, I also want to say that we did record an episode of this before, and we talked about this movie and its flaws for an hour, so I was trying to fit this in 20 minutes is a trip. Yeah. Christian, do you have your way you'd fix it?
I don't really know how I'd fix this whole movie because it's just kind of a clusterfuck. There's so much going on. But this is my fantasy for the end of the movie. Wouldn't fix it, but this is my personal fantasy. So come along for the ride. At the end, Kylo and Rey team up and they're about to fight Palpatine, but they're too weak. And then Force Ghost Dark Side Anakin walks out of the Force plane. Also, somehow they get transplanted. Oh God, can't talk. Teleported to the Force plane where like Force ghosts are, and they're there for some reason. Palpatine takes them there or something like that.
Okay.
And evil Anakin Force Ghost comes and fights Palpatine, and he fights him to the death, and they're both about to explode. And Anakin looks back at Kylo and he goes, "You were wrong, Ben. You were wrong." And they both explode. Anakin and Palpatine. They explode. What's her face? Rey and Ben are transported back to the normal human plane, and they're happy ending.
Ooh.
But it's a callback to when Darth Vader was like, "You were right, Luke." But he was trying to tell Ben, like, dude, fuck the dark side. This is what's going to happen. You're going to turn into a creepy old decrepit piece of shit. And the last thing I want you to see is my creepy fucking dark side Force face.
No one wants to see that.
I'm kind of improvising here, but
I love
that's
it,
my
dude.
ending. Also, we bring back Hayden Christensen, give him a chance to redeem himself. I don't know.
With a good director, you know.
yeah. I think he would have done
mine
well.
is a similar approach because again the movie's such a clusterfuck. So it's me looking at it like, what's the quickest fix that would have made me happy, or that would change, that would just be better. And I think to have Rey to have died and for Kylo Ren to have survived, it just would have been more interesting.
And for him to have to live
he would have
with
had
that.
to deal with so much more different things. He would have been a loner, or would he redeemed himself? How does he live with himself? It's more compelling to me than Rey. Rey is just so boring. I don't know.
I mean,
she's.
I think there's a lot you could do to make her character more interesting too. Like have her be more conflicted. Like rather than by the time that she gets to the rise of Skywalker, she's like completely bought into the Jedi are the way. Whereas before, she's like in the Last Jedi, she's like, I'm on the fence.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I mean my biggest thing with her is that they needed to play with her being more imperfect, her draw to the dark side or something. Like she doesn't have strong weaknesses besides a lack of identity or whatever she's searching for. And that's not like a character flaw. That's just a core drive or something. I don't know. Yeah,
It's a
like
writing
the
flaw.
character kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I like her though. I like Daisy Ridley.
And it's not Daisy
Yeah,
Ridley's
it's not-
fault.
no, yeah.
Like, I think
Don't-
that
not to be misunderstood.
her dirty,
like I like
man.
Daisy Ridley. I thought her performance was good. This just comes down to writing and storytelling. But yeah. So how would you?
I think it would. What if like she died, like 2/3 of the way of the movie, like at the end of the second act in the movie, and that like made Ben Solo had to like lead the rebellion in its final attack somehow or something.
That would be cool.
Like,
That
if she
wouldn't be
died-
too out of character of the
I don't
fan
know.
theory kind of way the movie's told. But I think he's done too much bad to that. That'd be too quick.
Okay.
Personally,
Okay.
is how I view that. But let's okay, going long. This is our first episode, but this is longer than what we normally go.
Yeah.
To finish it
Yeah.
off, what's better, prequels or sequels? I will go first. I'll say prequels all the way. It's a coherent story from beginning to end, and I mean the Clone Wars is there. If you want to take it, it only enhances it, and it's better. It's a cohesive story. It was made by one man with one vision, which really helped that, and I mean you can tell. So I say prequels.
Yeah,
Christian?
I will also agree. I will say prequels with the caveat that I feel like if I was definitely if I was born now, or not now, but if I was the same age now, if I was born this instant during this podcast, if I was my age when the prequels came out as when the sequels came out, I mean, I would definitely like the sequels more. I guess that's kind of a moot point. Yeah, I think that the sequels or the prequels are more coherent, and that's why I like them overall. So yeah.
I think I'll say it one more time. I think the prequels as a cohesive piece are better, but I think they like kind of reverse it, where it's like the third one for me is like 8 out of 10, freaking killing it. You know, the performances lack, but it's a payoff. The first two, there's moments, but they like kind of like hover around average. And the first two sequels are pretty fun. I like them. I mean, I'm kind of trying to convince myself not to say prequels, and I'm wrong. I want to say prequels. Prequels is better than the sequels. I'm sorry.
No, dude.
I wanted to play devil's
Give us
advocate.
the devil's advocate.
I mean, the first two, Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, are executed better and more cohesive.
If you break it film by film or as a per film, sequels are better. 7 and 8 are just better than 1 and 2. You know, I say the prequels have one good
But
film.
altogether-
The sequels have two good films. But that doesn't change the fact that there's the incohesion is such a big deal. And
Yeah.
Patrick, listen to the Emperor John. He is right.
and he will be your rightful master if you come to the side of the prequels.
I will do
Join us.
Join us.
This is the first episode, and thank you guys for watching. Next week we have Onward, which we actually recorded before this episode, so that's fun and exciting and confusing. But check out Onward, and then you'll be able to enjoy the ride with us as we talk about this movie. It's a pretty fun one, a good conversation we have.
And it definitely didn't make me cry.
You'll hear all about his crying.
Of course not.
But any what's Star Wars quotes to sign off? I'll go first. Storm's coming, Annie. Better get home quick. What's your quotes?
Annie? Oh boy.
That was me
Nice,
being
nice.
Watto.
Christian?
I know.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys for watching. See you next week.
As they say on Alderaan, the planets explode!